Alice never saw anything wrong in letting her little Jack sleep in the stable with the newborn foal. She actually thought it was very cute. But when she discovered the consequences of these nights sleeping in the stable 3 years later, they were anything but cute. She should never have let her son near this foal and would regret it now. When Alice found out that Jack had run away from home, there was only room in her mind for panic. She felt the police weren't working to find her son fast enough. And when they came back with a strange lead, Alice thought they were pranking her or something. But Jack's bus driver may know a lot more than Alice thought. The police questioned the bus driver, and it was clear that Jack was on that bus at some point today. However, no one seemed to know where he got off and if he even made it to school. When they checked the cameras at the bus station, the police were shocked. Could that be Jack? It was definitely Jack. But why was he on that bus? This bus didn't even go near his school. It even went in the totally opposite direction. Why should he go there? It didn't seem like there was anything out there. The police had no idea, but Jack's parents knew right away. His parents couldn't believe it. They knew exactly why he went there, and they knew what they would find there. They couldn't imagine Jack being capable of that. There was no other option but to hop in their car and hope they would get there on time. When Alice was younger, she competed in equestrian competitions and was quite successful. When Alice read about battle horses and what was happening to them, she knew she had to do something. After receiving financial support from those close to her, she was able to start a horse farm where horses are nursed back to health and given a second chance at life. Every day, Alice and her husband Greg did everything in their power to help the horses. Years and years passed, and Greg and Alice could not imagine any other future for themselves. Not even when little boy Jack was born there. A perfectly healthy boy who has become obsessed with the horses on the farm over the years. Sam was brought in as a young foal who was severely malnourished and distanced from his mother. He recovered quickly and got fitter. When he first met little Jack, a special bond was formed. Their bond even went so far that at one point Jack took a nap with Sam in the stable. If Jack wasn't there, Sam would throw such a tantrum that Alice and Greg would bring Jack over. When Jack was 6, Alice and Greg had to sell Sam. Even though Sam and Jack had such a good bond, it didn't bode well for Jack to spend his whole life on the horse farm. He needed a place where people could ride him every day and take even better care of him. This news was very difficult for Jack to process. 2 years passed and not much had changed at the horse farm. Alice and Greg would tend to any horses that came in. When the horses were grown and healthy, they would be sold, and Jack would play with the horses every day. Something about Jack didn't seem right, however. From the moment Sam was sold, something seemed to have changed in Jack. He wasn't the happy little boy he used to be. Alice decided that they should take Jack to the riding school that Sam was being sold to, and when Greg heard their plan, he immediately joined. This would surely make Jack feel better again. However, they only told Jack that they were going away for the weekend, but wouldn't tell him where. On Saturday morning, they got into their car for the 6-hour drive. Jack still didn't know what was going on. They reached a riding school, and he saw the horses in the fields. He had no idea why they were here. At the very back of the field, he saw a beautiful, majestic bay horse, and he knew immediately it was Sam. Without thinking about it, Jack crawled under the fence and ran into the field. When Sam noticed this, he ran straight to Jack. Even after years apart, he still knew who Jack was, and all he wanted was to play with him again. Jack and Sam were once again inseparable over the weekend. When it was time to leave, Jack's tears began to flow again. They were glad they went to riding school, and so was Jack. Although he was happy, his tears couldn't be stopped. Days turned into weeks and weeks turned into months as Jack seemed to start feeling better. Alice and Greg had wondered if bringing him back to Sam was a good decision. But once they saw how he felt now, they didn't worry about it anymore. Alice and Greg were so happy to see their son was no longer sad. What they didn't know was that this was about to change. Jack would be spending less and less time at the horse farm and only seeing his parents a few hours a day. It got to a point where Jack was no longer spending time at the horse farm, and his parents were too busy to see what was actually going on. During these past few weeks, Jack hatched a plan. He would do something that would shock everyone around him. It all became clear to him as he rode the bus to school the next day. It was around 11 a.m. when Jack's school called Alice and asked if she had seen Jack. They didn't call in sick, so they expected him to be at school. Alice got the shock of her life when she heard that. After a few minutes, Alice pulled herself together and ran to Greg and told her what she had just learned. Greg immediately picked up his phone to call the police, but the police told him they could only report someone missing after 24 hours. Greg was very upset and told police that this was crazy, but there was nothing he could do about it. Greg jumped in his car and drove around the neighborhood hoping to find her son. He drove around for hours, but there was no sign of Jack. The next day, Greg immediately went to the police station to report his son missing. Nevertheless, he was annoyed that this was only possible after one day. He felt like they had wasted a day. But after a lot of paperwork, it was the turn of the full police force. Not much happened in the town where they lived. Mostly only small crimes were committed. Something as big as a child's disappearance was unusual. The police began interviewing many people to begin their investigation. Pictures of Jack were shown on the news and in local newspapers with a message to call the police station if anyone saw him. However, days went by and no new leads came in, until the police questioned the school bus driver since the day Jack went missing. They went through all the stops because there was no other way Jack could get off the bus before he got to school. When they did, the case got underway. There was only one stop on the way to school. This stop was at the local bus station, where buses departed to many different locations around the country. The police officers immediately went to the bus station, where Jack may have gotten off the bus. At first glance, the bus station staff didn't think they saw Jack. They had been following the news, and if they had seen him, they would have called the police. Just to be sure, the police asked them to check the cameras. After watching the footage for hours, an officer thought he saw someone who looked like Jack. You have rewound and sharpened the image. When they did, they were shocked. They placed an image of Jack alongside the footage and could only conclude that this was indeed him. From the footage, they could see Jack getting on a bus. They knew he would be heading to a small village town about 6 hours away. Officials had no idea why he was driving to such a small rural town. When they looked at what was around there, they saw only large open fields and nothing special to do there. The officers were still completely clueless, but that changed when they asked Jack's parents. Officials came across Alice and Greg's horse farm and asked them if this little place name had any meaning to them. When they heard the name, Alice immediately started crying. All the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, and they knew exactly why Jack was going there. It turned out that the small town Jack went to was the same town they had visited on a weekend a few years ago. It was the town where the riding school was located that Sam had been sold to. Alice and Greg immediately jumped into their car and made the 6-hour drive to the riding school. Even though it seemed logical that Jack had to be there, they still weren't 100% sure. However, the only way to find out was to go there. After a long and emotional journey, they finally reached the riding school. The owners asked her what was going on. Alice and Greg explained the whole story to them. The owners of the riding school hadn't seen Jack there, but of course they allowed them to look. Greg, Alice, and the owners searched all around the fields, but nothing strange had happened. After a while, they thought they were wrong, but then the owners spotted something strange in the corner of his eye. Something was wrong. They rushed to Sam's stables to see if they could find the horse there. What they found, however, was more than just Sam. Sam was in the stable. He was sleeping. Next to Sam was Jack. It was just like the old days when they would nap together in the stables. They woke up Jack and Sam and were thrilled to be able to hug Jack again. They told him he could never do anything like that again. Before leaving, the owners of the riding school, Alice and Greg, told them to bring Sam back. The bond between Jack and Sam was just too big for her. And that's exactly how it went. Within a week, Sam was welcomed back to the horse farm. Not as a malnourished or weak horse, but as Jack's best friend who will never leave each other again.